Today we're checking out a demo in Steam's Next Fest of Sense and Soul is a queer Victorian romance visual novel set in Victorian London. This story revolves around a gentleman who is running from their past and a poet who is hiding from the future collide through a lonely heart's advertising. Suddenly their lives can blossom if you choose to change them. If you're into visual novels, romance, historical stories, as well as LGBTQIA plus stories, then you should definitely check out Of Sense and Soul. You can find the link to the demo in the description below. I hope you enjoy. This story is about moments and lives lost to time. Countless people have come. If the game audio is too loud or too quiet, please let me know. There's no audio at the moment. Countless people have come and gone. We remember them as part of history. Tell me, dear player, have you ever wondered about the personalities, struggles, and joys of people long past? I have, yep. Why? I want to know what they knew. I want to learn from their mistakes. I want to know what they knew. I understand. Life is full of enough questions as it is. Even the recent past can blur before one's eyes, let alone the distant past. It's fragmented voices, objects, and events. They're hard to piece together from our standpoint. But perhaps back then, people weren't so different from us. The story ahead is an attempt to bring lives that might have existed to the forefront, to share the stories of two men in 1875, and imagine tracing their footsteps through smog-covered streets of Victorian London. Their lives become intertwined and together begin to bloom and unfold. Though the garden they grow together rests on their actions and choices all alone. No one person can tell how long their story will end. And yet, we regret the decisions we make once we follow them to their conclusion. Another's life story is in your hands now. I wonder, what will you make of it? Okay.
Now then, let's see how we might go about setting the scene.
Voice acting.
Yesterday evening, a quiet neighborhood was shocked by scandalous reports that one of its residents was engaged in a most surprising endeavor. Residents were left to question whether they truly understood their fellow man at all. There, even these ordinary little scandals can have a bit of the poetic in them, if one only knows where to look.
Oh, well, that's what sells the papers, isn't it?
Mr. Bentley.
We can't all have literary aspirations, can we?
No, not all of us can be Mr. Brooks. Any more of him, and this place would turn bohemian overnight. Isn't that so, Mr. Brooks?
Eyewitnesses reported that Miss Carstairs' account was
Mr. Brooks?
in the interest of and preserving the public decency. And what's so wrong with that? Right?
Brooks!
We at the Daily Creed can only caution our readership insofar as
Really?
Brooks. Lost in the page again, hey?
Oh,
I'm sorry, gentlemen. Were you saying something? Sir?
Oh!
Oh, I guess it's not It's not fully voice acted in certain parts? Okay. You've just proved my point, Brooks. That's all.
Quite right.
Well, I best be getting home. My wife will be wandering after me before long. Have a good
Take
evening,
care.
boys.
Ha ha!
And Mr. Brooks, try not to get so drawn in that you forget to go home yourself.
Of course.
Don't worry about me. I'll be along shortly. I just wanted to finish this article and then... Ah, he's left. In fact, most of my other coworkers here too. Not unusual for Saturday, but hey. Anyway, sorry. Away home for the evening, then, I suppose. If I leave now, I can even stop by the library on my way. I depart from an almost empty office with my bag tucked under my arm. Hugo's Route, Chapter 1, The Editorialist. What a day. I'm sure Monday will be just as tiring. We are working to a deadline after all.
What?
That's odd. Someone has left a newspaper out. Could it have been Mrs. Wright? That's unlike her. How strange is it? How strange. It isn't the normal paper. Instead, it's
Really?
the matron, wow. Matrimonial news? I'm so sorry. Why is that such a hard word to say for me? Seeking the acquaintance of a most attractive young lady. Heavens. I can't imagine how or who.
There you are. I was beginning to wonder if you'd gotten yourself lost on the way back from work.
Oh,
Is this our wife? Are we bisexuals? I hope we're bisexual. Camilla, you startled me.
Hello, cousin.
Oh, we're
I hope it
cousins.
isn't too much trouble that I've stopped by unannounced.
Okay. Not in a relationship. Got it. No, not in the least. You know, I'm always glad to see you.
Yes.
And I you. Besides, I felt awful to not have been by to see you on your birthday 2 days ago. I thought I should at least come by and make sure the festivities weren't wild enough to overwhelm you. Festivities, please. I had a nice quiet night in, but thank you for thinking of me. And for sending a letter and your present. Just the letter was appreciation enough. The gift was lovely. It looks like it must have taken you ages.
thank you.
A bookmark is something I can always get use from, and I can't imagine the work that goes into embroidery like that.
I have faith.
No, I'm sure most men find it beyond them,
Ah.
but I worry that you spend the day alone. Surely your colleagues at the Creed must have at least come by to wish you well. Oh, I'm sure most of them hadn't the slightest idea that it was my birthday at all. And really, Camilla, you know I don't mind. I liked the quiet. There's nothing I like better, in fact, than a peaceful night at home with my books to keep me company. Other than a visit from your favorite cousin, I'm sure.
Of course.
Oh, of course. If I had known you were coming, I would have rushed home after work instead of going to the library. I'm only teasing, Hugo. The whole family made peace with coming second to your reading long ago. But I suppose that is why I'm here, in part. Of course, I wanted to wish you well, but as part of that, I wanted to come by to express a little gentle, familial concern.
Hmm.
Concern? Concern over what? Well, my dear Hugo, I can't imagine it's comfortable for you out here all alone. Do you really mean to be a lodger for the rest of your life? Well, I'm comfortable here, Mrs. Wright. It. Well, I am comfortable here. Mrs. Wright is as good to me as any landlady could be, and the rent is very reasonable for the area.
I only mean. Well, I suppose your mother nominated me, seeing as you and I were always closest to one another out of all of the cousins, to come and press you gently on the subject of marriage.
Ugh.
What?
Oh, we're sweating.
Oh, don't act like it's such a ridiculous
Marriage?
idea.
But I'm gay.
You're just 3 years from turning 30, Hugo. It's well past time you should
30,
start
life is
thinking
over.
these things.
Oh my goodness. The travesty of becoming 30.
And we all worry about you, you know. All alone out here, only going to work and back with no human contact, just your books and letters.
What is she talking about? My life is perfectly wonderful. There is nothing to be concerned with in the least. I have human contact.
Human. That's code for something else, huh?
I have my colleagues. And Mrs. Wright.
Oh no. Are we gonna get outed?
Well, you come and visit me sometimes.
But you just said your colleagues don't know you particularly well. And if that's the sum total of your list of friends and loved ones, you've made me more concerned, dear cousin, not less. Oh, don't look at me like that. I haven't come to drag you directly to the altar now. I just thought, well, your mother thought, and I agree, that a small reminder that you aren't getting any younger wouldn't go amiss.
I'm not altogether sure about the look on my face, but I'm certain it isn't pleasant.
Chin up. It's not as bad as if you'd been born a lady. You would have started getting these sorts of well-meaning visits a decade ago, at least.
No, it's totally a miss. Hi, Esoterica. Welcome on in. It's nice to see you.
And I suppose it was you who brought in that newspaper?
Clever as always. Yes. Of course, I'd be more than willing to introduce you to some fine ladies I know, but knowing you, I thought a written introduction might be a little easier for you to stomach. Whichever tactic ends up working is the most effective one, after all.
It does sound at least a little less daunting than being introduced in person. Though I'm still not certain I see the point of all this at all. I'm not the eldest son. I don't need to carry on the family name. Nathaniel has that well in hand, I'm sure.
No, but marriage is still a beautiful thing. Companionship, if not romance, is a beautiful thing, Hugo. Since I met Howard, I won't tell you that life had no meaning before. That would be doing you a disservice. But when I stand at his side, suddenly the future's a little brighter, and the world a little warmer.
Of course, I knew Camilla and her fiancé were very much in love. It's obvious to anyone who sees them. But hearing her speak of it in these terms is new, and it's striking. Camilla signs and takes a moment to collect herself. When she speaks again, her tone is a bit more level than before.
Just promise me you'll at least give that paper a look. All right, have a read over it, and see if you can't find even a single young lady in there who strikes your fancy.
Well,
Camilla, leave us alone.
only because it's you, Camilla.
mean, I guess she means well. And she's doing our mother's bidding, right?
All right, I promise.
And I'm sure that's why your mother sent me instead of anyone else. All right. Good.
Camilla stands up, taking her hat and gloves with her. Well, with that settled, I had better get going.
Oh,
So soon. I'm afraid I must be home to help with dinner. Howard will be joining us tonight. Really, that's a treat.
Yes.
He had business nearby this afternoon and promised to make an appearance. But I'll pass by your parents' house on the way. I'm sure your mother will be wanting an update.
I have faith.
Hopefully my word will keep her mind at ease for a good long while and give you as much time as you need to determine a course of action. Just as long as there is a course of action. Thank you, Camilla. It was nice to see you, truly. She has our back. I mean, while she does want us to get married, she's at least giving us time to, not have to, put up with the pressures of that from our family. Even if you came bearing this. You as well, dear cousin.
So long.
Good night. And once again, I am left in the quiet alone. Well, alone, save for the I can't say that word, matrimonial news. Wow. It sits on the table for boddingly. I can't believe she talked to me into promising anything at all. What a ridiculous idea. As though anyone could fit their whole self in one little block of text, enough to get to know them. As though any of it will be of interest at all. I'm sure these are all from perfectly lovely ladies, but I skim over the text. MC, age 24, skillful in housework. That's not much to go off of, is it? AF, 30, affectionate, fair, some means? Oh no, she appears to be from Dorset. That certainly wouldn't work. KB, English, Protestant. All right. Seeks engagement as companion to a lady. Well, I won't waste her time then. After scanning through hundreds of listings, I put the paper down and sigh. I should have known none of these are suitable for me. Many of them are just replies to other notices.
Honestly.
Well, at least I can tell Camilla I tried. Only one more, and then I can truthfully say I read through them and found none of interest. Let's see. SC, age 25, of good position, seeks to open correspondence with a gentleman of an artistic nature and a mind and manner akin to the advertiser's own, with a view to future happiness. Editor has address. Well, I suppose poetry is among the highest forms of art, isn't it? I have to say I truly didn't expect any of them to be quite so. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to respond, would it? Surely the lady won't write back, but then at least I can tell Camilla I've truly tried my best. No one could fault me for that. I'll just write her one letter, and that will be all I hear of it, I'm sure.
Oh, goodness.
Lady, right. Wink, wink. But what if she were to write back? I suppose I can risk that. Camilla and mother can fuss all they like, but I'm perfectly happy, and I haven't the time to find a wife, not if I ever wish to be taken seriously as a writer. Well, whatever I decide, I suppose it can wait. For now, I'd best find something to eat and try to get in a little writing before it gets too late. I wonder who this SC is. 2 days later. I stand at the door with my letter to Miss SC in hand. I've read it over many times in the past day that words no longer feel real. Though, given my penmanship, they might as well not be real. I hope she can make out my handwriting. I really can't believe I'm doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, Camilla, if you weren't my favorite cousin, I dare say well, I would be very put out with you right now. There's a new crease in the paper from my absent-minded fiddling. I smooth it out with a sigh and slip it back into the envelope.
Oh, goodness.
Well, no use wasting any more time dithering. I'll put it in with the Morning Post, and that will be the last I hear of it, I'm sure. After all, I'm certain that no sensible young lady would write back to me.
Oh.
Goodness, is that the time? I had better be on my way. I still have that article to finish. Okay.
How are we feeling today?
Morning, Mr. Brooks. You went home the other night after all, eh?
Good day.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bentley.
Oh.
Are you sure it is a good morning, though? You're looking a bit peaky there.
Of course.
Of course I am. Perfectly fine, yes. Thank you for your concern, but if you'll excuse me. Goodness, do I really look that poorly? Pull yourself together, Hugo. It was only one letter, and it's out of your hands now.
Brooks!
Uh-oh. Oh dear.
Did you finish that article on the Carstairs business?
Yes, Mr. Colston.
Uh-oh. That is, I'll have it for you just a moment. I only had a few thoughts.
This isn't the Oxford Press, Brooks. It just has to sell papers, not win any blasted awards. Get it to me now. Or better yet, 5 minutes ago.
Not the spit. Yes, sir, of course. He's in a bit of a temper. I must not be the only one running up against the deadline for the upcoming edition. I'd better get to it. Mr. Colston may not always be the easiest to get along with, but he does provide a wonderful distraction from thoughts of Miss SC. The time, I'm afraid, gets away from me.
By the way,
Mr. Brooks, there's mail for you. Ah, time for the afternoon post already.
What?
For me? What? Oh no.
huh?
No? I'm sorry. Nothing. I mean, thank you. Thanks. She wrote back. More than that, even. She wrote back right away. Oh, it's just a note from Camilla. Goodness, what's come over me? Of course it couldn't have been the woman from the advertisement. I gave her my home address for return, not my workplace. This whole affair has got me more twisted up than I'd like to admit, it seems. It's odd. I'm relieved, of course, but at the same time, I'm just the tiniest bit disappointed.
Ah,
See, Mr. Brooks, it was only a letter after all.
Oh.
You were looking at it as though you thought it would bite you. You were looking at it as though you thought it would bite your hands off.
ha!
One would think you'd never seen paper before. Yes.
I beg your pardon.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm afraid I really must be getting back to work, and... I know. Colston will have our heads if we miss the cutoff time for printing. I suppose Camilla might have been right about one thing. It's possible I could stand to get to know my coworkers a little better. Thinking I'm afraid of a letter, honestly? Mr. Hamad, Back to his own work, I can actually read Camilla's note. What is it? Dearest Hugo, let this letter serve as a bit of encouragement to you. I've been thinking of you since Saturday evening. It is never easy to step outside one's familiar social setting, and I know it is particularly hard for you. I wanted to be sure you knew that difficulty was recognized. Your mother is terribly pleased with you, I think. She was most relieved to hear that I had convinced you to try and reach out. You must know that both of us think the world of you. We only want to see you happy. Now, with all of that affection nonsense out of the way, I will let you return to your work. Far be it from me to distract you for too long. Yours as ever, Camilla Brooks. It is always good to hear from her, and I do know that she means well. Of course I know that. Whether or not there's a letter waiting at home from my mystery advert girl today or tomorrow or ever, that won't change. That's all well and good, and it's easy to say it, but I'd prefer not to feel so anxious about the whole thing. I suppose there's no sense in worrying, but that doesn't make it any easier not to worry.
Tick tock, tick tock.
This boss. Have you finished your damn edits yet, man? Mr. Coulston's prompting, on the other hand, helps more than it probably ought to. If I'm writing, I can't be worrying, can I?
Of course.
I don't think so. You are high anxiety, my friend. Very nearly, Mr. Coulston. If you give me just a few minutes. The rest of the afternoon passes without too much fuss. Focusing on work truly does make it easier to forget my worries, at least for the time being. And Mr. Coulston certainly doesn't complain. I worry that, one of these days, he'll combust while yelling at someone about a deadline. Yeah, I would believe it too, but not today and not because of me. I get my final edited articles in to him more or less on time, and I'm on my way home before I know it. Ooh, is the mystery person gonna be at our door waiting? Really, I suppose I've been making an awful fuss over nothing. What a preposterous thing to be upset about. I'm sure it gave some poor girl a good laugh, that's all. Besides which, it is only one letter. I'm under no obligation to do anything more, and furthermore. So, really, there isn't any case for dismay. I'm sure that everything will be. There's a letter on the table, right on top of the Evening Times. It must have come in the post. Perhaps I could just ignore it. No. I'm being ridiculous. I'm being preposterous. I'm being dun dun dun, right? I had better just open the blasted thing. Mr. Brooks. Oh goodness, here it goes. I was delighted to receive your response to my advertisement. You'll forgive me for saying so, I'm sure, but I found your letter positively charming. I should very much like to have the opportunity to meet you, so we might get to know one another beyond the page. Perhaps we can meet for lunch at a favorite establishment of mine this coming Sunday. It is on Bishopsgate Street, and it serves a fine cup of tea or coffee if it is your preference. Please do let me know if this plan suits, and I shall eagerly await your reply. Yours hopefully, S. What is that? Well, it's C. So Charkham? Shank? I don't know. I guess we'll find out eventually. Heavens, I feel like I need to sit down. Well, she doesn't want to meet until Sunday at least. Yeah, but you're going to spend the week like high anxiety worrying about this, right? That's nearly a week. So I've got time to decide. Yes. I've got time to think about it logically and reasonably, and
Oh, goodness.
I suppose I don't know what's stopping me. Oh, it's Charkham. Miss Charkham seems perfectly lovely. Why, she said she thought I was charming. Me, of all people? I don't remember the last time anyone said something like that about me. I'm not sure about anyone else, in fact. It wouldn't be so terrible just to go for lunch, would it? What on earth am I so afraid of? I'll write her after dinner and put it in the Morning Post. Maybe the Afternoon Post. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I should look too eager. But I'll write to her all the same, and that will be that. Camilla is going to be shocked when I tell her. I might have to stop by in person just to see the look on her face. But perhaps dinner first. It wouldn't do to write on an empty stomach, after all. It's not that I'm avoiding the matter. I'm just taking time to consider it properly. Hugo, you are doing everything in your power to avoid having to do this. And you overanalyze everything, which I can relate. I can very much relate. Still, there's only so long I can delay. After a hearty meal, I return to my room and sit down to a fresh paper with pen in hand. All right, I better get this letter written now, or I'm never going to. Now, what to write?
Yes.
In her reply, she said I was charming. I don't know that I've ever been charming before. It might be a bit difficult to do it on purpose. I suppose we'll see. From the desk of Hugo E. Brooks, letter composition to Miss S.C. I'll start by writing... Do I get a pick? Oh. Whoops. Oh, I do. I do get a pick. To the most lovely and charming Miss Charkham, nothing could have possibly made me happier than receiving your response. Miss Charkham... Dear Miss Charkham, I was delighted to receive your reply. Maybe we do the third one.
Oh, goodness.
Oh dear, I'm only now realizing that my hand may be a bit coarse for this application. I do hope she can tell that that's meant to be Miss and not a tangled ball of string. Well, any road, there's not much I can do about it but keep going. Next I'll write, I look forward to meeting you as soon as can possibly be managed. Sunday is far too distant. Might I see you tomorrow? Whoa. That's a bit forward. I would be pleased to accept your offer and await further details so we may meet. I think messing up the miss in your letter might not be such a bad thing, Hugo. Definitely not. Definitely not. I am honored by your swift reply, and your proposal suits me very well. I greatly look forward to making your acquaintance. Yeah, we'll do this one. Confirm. That ought to do it, I hope. I certainly wouldn't want to overdo it. If she liked my first letter well enough, she ought to like this one as well.
Heavens.
And I've certainly spent enough on my evening diddling over correspondence. I can worry about this again when it's closer to Sunday, I'm sure. Yes. Yeah, we'll save. Okay. The actor. The opal. Okay. Are we gonna start on Sunday?
Mind if I join you, Seamus?
James. James takes my mumbling as an assent and sits on the armchair across from mine.
My, the chairs here in the corner of the lounge really are quite plush.
Hold on 1 minute. Just wanna... I'm gonna turn that down. There we go.
I should sit here more often.
There we go. The background audio, like the rain, was louder than their voices.
Might miss out on some stories from the others, but my rear will be happier for it.
I snort, shaking my head.
They'd likely follow you over here if there are rumors to be shared.
With only 2 chairs? I suppose they could share this one, if you would share yours with me.
Gay.
Oh, sharing a dormitory with you was cramped enough. Let alone a single chair.
I came, I saw, I conquered.
As suddenly as James had appeared, his expression turned serious.
I didn't come over here to bicker with you, Seamus. You seem out of sorts. What's the matter?
Is this SC?
Nothing's the matter.
This must be SC. Seamus.
No?
I take a deep breath, my fingers gripping the wool of my trousers.
Not nothing. There is something. I don't know
Whoa.
how I can begin to explain this blunder I've made. Why I'm as affected by this as I am. Where to go from here?
James presses a short-stemmed glass into my hands, the scent of brandy wafting from its sweet, but with a sharp alcoholic edge that threatens to pull emotion right out from my chest.
Have a drink. Take your time. I don't mind waiting.
A few hours prior. The morning of the day I'm set to meet Mr. Brooks dawns bright and sunny. Well, bright and sunny by London standards. It is admittedly nothing compared to the countryside, but I quite prefer the comforting press of the buildings, and even the familiar fog from the burning of coal. The house is fairly quiet in the mornings. Truth be told, it's fairly quiet all the time, though the decor might suggest otherwise. It's hardly the first time I've met a potential suitor, but something about the air of mystery, meeting someone I've known only through one solitary letter, thrills me. This is SC. A knock at the door draws my attention, and I look up to see Cornelius entering the room.
Yes, sir.
Your cab has arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I've just got to get my hat, and I pat my pockets down looking for my gloves. Where did I put those? I look up to find them right in front of me, extended to me in Cornelius's hands. Your gloves, sir. Yes, right. I pull the gloves on and flex my hands to fit them securely. They feel strange, smoother and sturdier than when I wore them last. Is this a new pair? Yes, sir.
I say.
Seeing as you stressed today's outing would be of significance, I thought you might want them replaced.
I see.
And the old pair? Shall I retrieve them? No, it's all right. The cab's waiting. I had better be on my way.
I see.
Yes, of course.
Take care.
I had picked the meeting location carefully, and only after receiving Mr. Brooks' letter, I had a few potential places in mind. Crosby Hall, my final selection, has a few advantages, and as I draw nearer, my conclusions seem substantial. It seemed a promising place for a first introduction. The luncheon bar there is reasonably priced. At this point, I can only guess, but it seemed unlikely to be prohibitively expensive. And it is somewhat less formal on an account of that. It attracts a sizable crowd, enough to offer a shred of anonymity, as it were. Besides, the food is good, the atmosphere convivial, and the place itself is lovely. I doubt Mr. Brooks is here yet. I intentionally arrived rather early. I'll do well to get a table, ideally with a view of the door. He'll be here soon. A waitress shows me to a table, where I settle and watch for any sign of Mr. Brooks. Crowds ebb and flow as luncheon goes on. Perhaps I got here slightly too early. Hold on. They've never met each other. They've never seen each other. So how are they going, like, I get, yeah, like how are they going to find each other? I guess maybe the waitress will be like, this way to Mr. Brooks, Mr. Chalkman. Crowds ebb and flow as luncheon goes on. Perhaps I got here slightly too early. Mr. Brooks certainly isn't late, far from it. It's not yet our agreed upon time. Yet, I feel as though I've been waiting for years. Wait, could that be him? There's a man by the entrance who inexplicably, I can only describe as looking bookish. I get up from the table and make my way towards him. Oh, I actually haven't even seen Mr. Brooks, and he didn't offer a description of his appearance, so I could be wrong. This is dangerous, especially in this period, to oh, yeah, something bad could happen. But I very much doubt I am. He's facing away, but he's looking around as though confused or searching for someone. And he's alone. It must be him. It must be. I'm within arm's reach of him. There's no turning back now.
Here it goes. Pardon me, but are you Mr. Brooks?
Oh, why, yes, I am. And you are?
Ooh. He turns, and I finally see the face on my mysterious respondent. Not the look over the shoulder.
Perhaps Crosby Hall was the wrong place for this after all.
In the afternoon light streaming in from the tall cathedral windows, there is an oddly ethereal glow to his figure. His eyes take my breath away. Even from behind his spectacles, they look
like sunlight on the moors. Vast and verdant. Contained in just that gaze.
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I
apologize if I startled you. I just had to be sure I had found you.
I beg your pardon.
I'm sorry, and I suppose you are Mr. Charkham? Oh, I've rushed right past that, haven't I? Yes, I am. It is so wonderful to meet you properly. You're just as I imagined you to look from your letters.
Of course.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon. I shake his hand, which, despite its size, is cool to the touch. I've managed to secure us a table. Shall we talk there? After you, sir. Okay. So he's going along with it. As I move through the restaurant, I am keenly aware of being watched by Mr. Brooks, who follows close behind me. Am I to his expectations? I may not look the type to put up a personal advert, but I suppose he doesn't look the type to respond to one. Still, expectations or not, he wanted to see me. He came for the express purpose of doing so. I bet Hugo thinks Seamus is there to check on him for a femme relative. Yeah, I don't think, because first off, Seamus, you put out an advert for, well, you certainly didn't put a gender, but in those papers for that section, it is women who are writing those. So he is expecting you to be a woman, or expecting a woman to be here. We'll see how this goes. Upon reaching our table, I pull out a chair for Mr. Brooks, and he sits with a polite nod of his head.
Much appreciated.
Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Mr. Brooks. I doubt you're a busy man. Well, I don't work terribly far from here. It was no trouble at all.
I don't believe it.
Really, what a coincidence. May I ask whereabouts? Oh, just on Fleet Street. Really, not far by bus. My usual haunts are more towards the end of the Strand.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we could meet in the middle on future occasions. Oh, the little jump.
Of course.
Yes, indeed. I can see his rising nervousness. It shows in his tenseness of his shoulders and the tightness of his smile. First meetings are daunting, especially with such an unconventional premise. But I'm surprised a man of such stature would be so demure. I take the bill of fare placed on the edge of the table and hand it to him. The lunch menu here is a set one. The only thing to worry about is what you'd like to drink.
Really?
Thank you. I was wondering. A waitress comes by to accept our order as soon as I mention that fact. With our drinks secured and the first lunch course on the way, I take the opportunity to encourage conversation. Now, Mr. Brooks. His gaze snaps up from the menu to meet mine.
Oh.
Yes. I do hope I can ease his nervousness somewhat. Your letter was so brief. You know at least a little of my interests from the advert I posted. But I don't know much at all about you. Oh. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Myself? Yes. Well, I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
A writer. Fascinating. What is it you write? Well, I'm employed as an editorialist, but... An editorialist? What does that entail? Those pieces at the start of a newspaper. Editorials. I write those. I see. So, you're an editor. No. I just write them, I'm afraid. My editor prefers to leave the writing to me. He sighs, wringing his hands in front of him. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this. I become quite tongue-tied with introductions. That's all right. I appreciate your candidness. It's refreshing, really. Why don't I tell you about myself first? Perhaps that will help. Ooh, help Seamus think of something to say. Would you like to turn off time choices? No, that's okay. So my family is from Shorespire. I moved to London a few years ago. Okay. I enjoy the theater. I'm partial to tennis, theater, and spring is my favorite season, and my favorite color is blue. And most importantly, I'm delighted to make your acquaintance, my dear Mr. Brooks. Not the wink. Gay things are happening.
Really?
I see. How interesting. That was a terribly quick few facts about me, but I'm sure we will come to learn more about one another with time. You're gonna both get arrested, right? I'm just waiting for something bad to happen, which is like, I don't know. I guess that's like, I mean, obviously just with the time period in mind, but also just like, I don't know, gay shame of like public affection or like any of that.
Of course.
Oh, yes, of course. Our food arrives in good time, just as we've reached a lull in conversation. I'm also so like, what is Mr. Brooks' thinks? Like, is he not caught on? I mean, we clearly stated that we wrote that advert, but I'm like, is he just like playing along because he thinks something else, or is he actually like interested? I don't know. We had both grown quiet.
There's been a tension lingering between us, but it could just be my own fretting.
Mr. Charkham?
Yes, Mr. Brooks?
I fear I must be honest with you about something.
I guess that was a strange benefit of British politeness and manners, that two men could easily meet as friends for lunch dates or drinks, and it mean nothing more than that. That's true. Yeah. And I guess that was probably a way to get around that, right? Of being queer during that time. It's like, yeah, of course, two men can meet, right? But like, I guess it's like, who else is in that room, right? Because like winking, winking at a man, I don't know. Is that scandalous for Victorian London? A tightness builds in my chest.
Please, go on.
Also, just to give everyone a heads up, I have an ad that is going to play right now. So I apologize for anyone who's unsubbed. I'll see y'all in about a few minutes after the ad plays. We are going to continue on and continue the demo while the ad plays.
You see, that is to say...
No.
Heavens, I'm sorry, Mr. Charkham.
No.
You see, I made an error in reading your advert. I had thought that you were... that this was...
Yes. At once, Mr. Brooks' blanks fill in my mind.
You thought I was a woman.
Yes.
I'm... afraid so, yes.
I stare at him in bewilderment.
How could... Then why...
Questions race through my mind, but one comes out is...
I see.
I mean, why are you surprised, though? I think it's very clear that someone putting an advert out in that way, they would assume that you are a woman, right?
Well, these things happen. I'll waste no more of your time then, Mr. Brooks.
I rise from my seat, holding my napkin next to the untouched cutlery in front of me.
Mr. Charkham,
I mean, Mr. Brooks is taking this pretty well, so I will say that. My face is growing hot with emotion, embarrassment, guilt, shame. Whatever it is, I want nothing more than for this feeling to go away and leave this place. I reach for my hat and gloves as stiffly as an automaton and bid Mr. Brooks goodbye. Now, Seamus is being a little bratty. Because it's like, what did you expect? He didn't know that you're a man. So I get you're upset, but I don't know.
Terribly sorry for the mix-up.
I guess he's more like it's more embarrassment not being mad, I suppose.
Please, stay and enjoy. I'll take care of the check.
Mr. Charkham, wait, please.
Mr. Brooks' outburst is the loudest he's been all afternoon, and the surprise of it stops me in my tracks. Several nearby patrons turn at the sound. Mr. Brooks seems to have surprised himself. After a moment, he blushes, lowering his voice as well as his gaze.
I apologize for my misunderstanding. Please, if there's anything I can do to remedy it, tell me what it is and I will do my best.
He's apologizing to me. Oh, it's almost worse than if he'd shouted me down or fled.
I search Mr. Brooks's gaze for a moment. His emotion certainly seems genuine. Nonetheless, I take a deep breath and straighten myself before responding.
Mr. Brooks, there isn't anything to remedy. As I said, these things happen. You needn't concern yourself with the matter any further.
But I would like to concern myself with it.
Ooh.
That is to say...
No. You said what you said.
I may have operated on incorrect assumptions about your identity, and I don't think I am what you were looking for. But I don't see why you should have to leave.
You are what he's looking for. Yes. The awakening.
I don't see why we can't continue to become acquainted.
He pauses for a moment, wringing his hands.
Your perspective may differ, of course. But I don't believe a conversation with an interesting partner is ever wasted, though I do suppose that my capacity to be an interesting conversational partner isn't nearly as great as your own.
Good Lord, what a truly fascinating afternoon this has turned out to be. I'm reminded that I'd started this encounter thinking it would be a thrill to meet a virtual stranger. Still, this wasn't what I had in mind. Though I can't help but feel a swell of gratitude for the man. He really is taking this much better than many would in his place. And my goodness, but he's determined, even as the nervous twitch of his fingers belies the set of his brow. Oh, damn it all. On the contrary, Mr. Brooks, I believe your claim is very strong indeed.
Then...
I remove my hat and glove and take my seat once again.
It would be a waste of good food not to stay and savor it. Wouldn't you say?
Relief washes across Mr. Brooks's features with those words.
Of course.
Now, I believe we are due for a change in topic. I imagine working at a newspaper must keep you very well abreast of current events.
Okay. So, that's what happened? An abridged of it, yes. I placed my glass on the side table with a sigh.
What?
Then, what happened after? Well, we had lunch, and then I came here. To sulk?
Oh,
Is that what you'd say I'm doing? I prefer to think it as rumination. Don't we all?
But this new acquaintance of yours, he didn't seem to mind afterwards? He must have had quite the shock himself. Some men might have taken a misunderstanding like that quite seriously.
if only you knew the half of it, James. No, he was perfectly pleasant. Very willing, eager even.
Eager.
For me to stay.
Then, what's the issue?
What?
It went fine in the end, didn't it? No one's feelings were hurt? At least, not after clarifications were made.
I admit I may be blowing all this out of proportion.
Don't be too hard on yourself. Bearing in mind what happened with Miss Hawthorne, I'm glad you're seeking romance at all. There will be other opportunities.
I don't need to be reminded of Miss Hawthorne now, James. Maybe not everything ought to be traced back to my failed engagement.
Damn.
Damn it. He knows I still hate to think of that. He must know.
Yes, I think James knows. He's catching what Seamus is dishing out.
It's been 2 years now, and I'd appreciate if you didn't bring it up. I can't very well move on when I'm constantly being reminded of it.
James stares at me for a moment, ready to retort. But he purses his lips instead, collecting himself.
I won't mention it again.
Thank you. It's just...
I sigh, my head falling back onto my chair.
I feel terrible that he felt terrible about this whole misunderstanding. It was my advert, after all. I could have been a bit clearer.
Yeah. You know, I think not alluding to the fact that you are a guy was a huge issue in the misunderstanding. So
No matter how straightforward one is on paper, there are some things words alone cannot express. Isn't that why you arranged to dine with this new acquaintance today? Perhaps the next edition of the matrimonial news will turn up with other interested parties.
Perhaps.
we're interrupted by the sound of hasty footsteps as a fellow club member, Mr. Evans, approaches us.
Seamus!
Oh.
James! I barely noticed you were here, off to the side like that. Hello.
What have you two been in the corner chatting about?
Oh, look who it is!
Nothing for your ears, I'm afraid.
Hello.
Nothing of note at all. But by the looks of the crowd over there, is there something going on?
Oh.
You must come and listen. Mr. Rahim, is regaling us with a riveting account of a student duel he bore witness to.
Oh my!
A duel? With pistols, sabers, or fisticuffs? Have duels ever been mere fisticuffs? It was pistols, of course. Can't bring a saber anywhere without getting looks these days. Dear me.
What?
No casualties, I should hope. The lucky buggers came away from it with little more than bruised egos and academic suspensions. Well, wait. Guns? In school? Is this America? Well, one of the students' pistols did misfire on him, but the damage wasn't life-threatening. It's fine, just a duel between bros. Yeah, you know, just a couple guys doing guy things. Yeah. And Mr. Rahim attended to the man's wounds immediately. He's alive, is what matters.
I don't
Thank
believe it.
God he is. He's lucky Mr. Rahim was there. Though I suppose the grounds of a medical royal college is the safest place one could duel. I guess that's true. No shortage of doctors there. Ah, that explains the pistols. What? What do you mean?
Oh,
Ah, he was just getting to that bit.
what?
What are we doing over here? Mr. Evans turns and strides briskly back to the gathering across the room. James and I leave our seats to follow after him. We make ourselves comfortable amongst Mr. Rahim's engrossed audience members who don't seem to notice our delayed arrival. As we listen to the rest of his story, the afternoon simply flies past. Night has fallen by the time I depart, and my dark journey home is brightened only by lamplight. Even hours later, I can't help but mull the day's events over again and again. At the end of our meal, which had extended quite past the end of lunch hour, Mr. Brooks had said,
Mr. Charkham, if I may, I have very much enjoyed our afternoon. To be candid, this experience is rather new for me on all fronts. I'm afraid my social sphere is rather lacking. But even if it weren't, I'm certain I'd feel just as I do now. That is to say, at your convenience, I would very much like to continue our conversation on another day.
Gasp. Gay gasp. And I accepted against my better judgment. Mr. Brooks is a man who seems to be far more comfortable with letters on a page than being faced with another person. Second date, woo, let's go. For him to discover the truth of my advert, still wish to dine with me, and then invite further companionship despite having every opportunity to leave this in the past. He wasn't at all, as I expected, in the most curious of ways. He'll never return my interest, for one. I don't know about that, Seamus.
This passing fancy will never
I
bear
don't
fruit,
know.
even if he's within reach. And yet, I'm simply left with the desire
The desire for what?
to know him.
Oh. To know what about him? I can relate to that, though, not torturing yourself with hope when you think it won't go anywhere. Yeah, it's very relatable. Okay. As much as I would like to continue on, I have been streaming for 5.5 hours, and we need to stop there. I'm sorry. I wish we could finish the demo on stream, but I do like this. I'll maybe try and finish the demo off stream, but that was nice. I'm happy we snuck in a visual novel in there.